Imagine a vibrant hub of student life. Imagine a Hillel. Imagine a Hillel with students and staff who know your name. Where students cook Shabbat dinners so their classmates and community have a place to call their Jewish home away from home. A Hillel that promotes the values of respect and tolerance and openness and has a positive influence, not just there, but on the campus over there as well. A Hillel where engagement with Israel is a key part of Jewish identity and travel to Israel a rite of passage. A Hillel that lives out the Jewish values of Tikkun Olam, improving the world, through service projects from Isla Vista to New Orleans to El Salvador. Imagine a Hillel that reaches out to students at multiple campuses throughout Santa Barbara. A Hillel that has helped UC Santa Barbara to blossom as the preferred destination for Jewish students, as UCSB actually now boasts the highest percentage of Jewish students in the entire UC system. Imagine a Hillel whose building is not an artificial edifice, but rather an organic center of community life. Imagine a Hillel blessed with a caring and committed group of students, big hand for our students, visionary, professional, and volunteer leaders, and generous members of the community who enable all this to happen. My friends, it is not difficult to imagine. All we have to do is open our eyes and look around us. This building, look at these people, look around this room. We are those students. We are those leaders. We are that community. We are Santa Barbara Hillel. This has been a dramatic and exciting year as Santa Barbara Hillel has become an independent entity and taken ownership of this beautiful building. We are embracing the opportunity to focus on our mission of serving our students while facing the challenges of independence head on. These challenges are real, so we appreciate your support today and especially into the future. One of the people who looked to the future was our dear friend Yves Sen of blessed memory. Yves, who passed away just 2 weeks ago, served here as board president. Rabbi Steve Cohn shared with me how Yves had the vision to create the Director's Fund to help support the position he held and the position I now hold. And even this week, in her amazing ability to plan, we have already received a bequest from Yves' estate. Yves loved gardening, and we are proud to be planting a fig tree in our garden here in Yves' memory to remember her for all the good she did in the community, and especially for all of our students. There are many leaders like Yves who make Hillel the place to be. And at this time, I'd like to briefly acknowledge and first ask the Hillel student leaders, the board members led by our president, Ron Gans, and our devoted staff, all of you to stand where you are and be recognized. Next, we want to acknowledge our Hall of Fame committee chaired by Dale Nissenson and staffed by Jillian Mooney, as well as the Ivy Minion members who helped set up for today's event. I ask the committee and the Ivy Minion members who helped us to do this to please rise at this time to be acknowledged. And we are also blessed to have tremendous partners in the Santa Barbara community. I'd like to ask all the professional and lay leaders of our partnering organizations, both Jewish and general community organizations, to stand up right now and be recognized. Please stand up. And now, in celebration of our 10th annual Hillel Hall of Fame, we celebrate three incredible individuals for our Hall of Fame. Rabbi Stephen Marion Cohen, who nurtured the small Jewish student club of the 1980s into the landmark Hillel we are blessed with today. Richard Silver, volunteer leader extraordinaire who connects personally and deeply with our students. And we are also beginning a new tradition today by bestowing our inaugural Alumni Achievement Award to an exceptional past student leader, David Siegelman. So let's have applause for all of them. Thank you for joining us to honor them for their vision, leadership, generosity, and wisdom. Santa Barbara Hillel is a success because of these four, and because of so many supporters, volunteers, and staff who make it a point today to care about what the Jewish future will look like tomorrow. The students of Santa Barbara Hillel are the future. Your support helps them and helps us to imagine a bright future. This morning, I hope you had a chance to view the student profiles on the walls behind me, and if you didn't before, go up afterwards and take a look and see what our students' lives are all about. Their stories and the stories you will hear over the next hour will inspire you to make the commitment to keep Hillel going strong into the future. Thank you to all of you. You are all a blessing. The first person on our program, it's a special pleasure to welcome Erica Eskenazi. Erica was a student here. Erica and I got to spend a lot of time together a few years ago because our names were next to each other in the alphabet. And they seated us on the LL flight to Israel by alphabet. And I was on the window and she was squeezed into a middle seat. And so both going to Israel and returning to Israel, Erica and I spent a lot of hours talking about Jewish life. That's part of her story. She's going to share a little bit about that with you, and especially is here to welcome and introduce David Siegelman. So this is Erica Eskenazi.
If 11-year-old Erica had known she would be standing here talking about her Hebrew school teacher, David Siegelman, she might have paid a little more attention in her 6th grade class. As every person who's met Dave knows, and those of you who haven't can see, he is a beacon of light and laughter. Ever since that first day in my Sunday school class, Dave has made Judaism a tremendously fun, social, and meaningful experience. When I entered high school, I was able to become a part of Sporty, Santa Barbara's Jewish youth group, which Dave led as youth group advisor. Dave brought so much life to Sporty. Not only did all of my Jewish friends attend Sporty events, but many wanted an active leadership role. The Sporty trips I went on, in large part planned by Dave, generated some of my favorite memories. One spring break, we went on a trip to Guatemala to help build a school started and run by a friend Dave had met on earlier travels to Central America. Not only was the opportunity to provide a brighter future for youth in a third world country a great example of the once-in-a-lifetime experiences organized by Dave for Sporty, but if you can imagine Dave riding up the side of a 12,000-foot volcano in 90-degree tropical heat on a mule half his size, while barking out orders for his students to pick up the pace, you'll have a little taste of the memory I'm sure is bound to haunt me and my friends for the rest of our lives. Another meaningful part of my teenage years that was steered by Dave was my participation in the Forest Foundation, a nonprofit started by Dave and a local philanthropist, Morris Squire, whose sole purpose was to assist and encourage young people to put on events in the local community aimed at improving the larger world. Dave's encouragement and guidance helped our entire group of 14 to 16-year-olds see our events through completion, showing us that we did have the power to make a difference in many people's lives. During his junior year at UCSB, Dave became the president of Hillel just after this beautiful new building had been built. Those who were involved in Hillel during this time have told me he filled the building with the same kind of vibrant, social Jewish atmosphere I had experienced as a teen. Needless to say, the Hillel community grew immensely thanks to his leadership, energy, and programming. Many say this was purely out of his dedication, but I personally think the free meals had something to do with it. In large part thanks to Dave, Hillel became a refuge and a home away from home for students at that time, and continues to be to this day. Personally, Hillel served as a welcoming, comfortable place to start my Friday nights, with a lovely Shabbat service and delicious dinner with my Jewish friends, many of whom I made through my Hillel birthright trip 2 summers ago. It was so wonderful to have that continuity from Israel to UCSB, and be able to grow the relationships I had formed on the trip here at Hillel. Dave's flair for intertwining the fun and social aspects of young people's lives with the many beautiful aspects of Judaism has helped him grow his influence from my 6th grade classroom, to Sporty, to Hillel, to the Forest Foundation, and now to Moishe House, an organization Dave co-created to fill the void many young Jews feel after graduating college and leaving Hillel. Throughout the 11 years I've known Dave, he has not only been supportive and encouraging in my educational and Jewish-related endeavors, but he's also been a supportive and encouraging, extremely loyal friend. Dave is an instrumental reason why many of my religious school friends became and remain my closest friends, therefore always tying me to my Jewish roots. I want to thank you, Dave, on behalf of the Jewish Youth of Santa Barbara, everyone at Hillel, and the larger Jewish community for everything you've given us. Thank you for empowering us. Thank you for showing us a fun way to be Jewish. And thank you for all the wonderful Jewish memories we share. I can't think of anyone more deserving of the inaugural Alumni Achievement Award here at Santa Barbara Hillel. And because I know how much excessively large custom trophies mean to you, since you bought one for yourself, after winning a competition on one of our trips, I want to present you with this one. It reads, "Extreme what? Extreme everything." That was our 6th grade slogan. To the most extreme guy on planet Earth, Mazel Tov on the first ever SB Hillel Alumni Achievement Award.
The excessively large trophy here. That was Erica's idea. We just got one that says in the Aramaic and the Hebrew and the translation here, "I found a fruitful world just as my ancestors planted for me. So too I plant for my children." A quote from the Talmud. So.
Thank you, Erica. I've been in this building many times. I think this is my first time wearing a suit, so I also recommend for everyone else as well. It's important for me to say that the trophy and the plaque I'm keeping for myself, but I am also accepting this really in part also with someone who really did all of these things and will be up here in the future as well, Jordan Fruckman, who was really a part of it. And he had the difficult task of collecting $100 from each one of our friends for that. So that was probably 6 months of his life that's now been used up. Of course, to Richard and Steve and Marion as well, congratulations. I wanted to think about a few things to share in a very brief amount of time, which has been reiterated. And so what it came back is this idea of Santa Barbara, UCSB, and Hillel as a place of learning, and how that relates to the other people who are here. So I just want to share a few things that I learned from the honorees who are here today. I'll skip myself. That would be, I'd go over the time. Richard Silver, I learned how to give selflessly. I always knew what it is to give, but it was always in my mind something that you give, and then when you needed something, that was the person that you then went to ask when you needed something back. It was really a give and take. And what I learned and have seen from Richard, whether it's volunteering in schools, his little brother that is here today, driving people around town, anything that anyone needs, the usher at our wedding. Richard taught me what it is to actually give completely selflessly. And so thank you, Richard, for teaching me what Tikkun Olam is and what a mensch is. Thank you, Richard. As a student here, I had the pleasure of having Domino's Pizza every Tuesday night at his house while I tutored Michaela. So we got to spend a lot of great time together. From Steve, I really learned what it is to take action and lead through providing opportunities rather than telling people what to do. It was an amazing lesson that I learned. You can actually see it really well in his children, who are amazingly different and both so fantastic and supported in the same way, but different ways. And it's been amazing to watch. I remember as a freshman here, sophomore here actually, there was a program director who we all sort of would say, she's not doing this, she's not doing that, and it was easy. It was really easy to be able to point the finger and say it was someone else that wasn't creating what we wanted. And at some point, Steve made the decision that it wasn't the right fit for the organization and let us know that he wasn't going to be bringing someone on until the fall. And he said to us, you have a choice. You can either do nothing and wait until the fall, or you can do something. It's up to you. And that kind of presence made us choose to do something. And that's how we really got involved and wanted to build an organization, because there was no one else to point at. We started pointing at ourselves. And that was a lesson that I've taken with me quite a bit. So thank you very much, Steve, for showing me what a real leader is and how to accomplish those things. And Marion, I learned what it is to not do something alone. I used to think that involving other people in work that I was doing would sort of be a distraction. And you've taught me how to surround yourself with people who you make better and make you better as well. And that is a lesson that has been absolutely fantastic for me to learn, because it's helped me build a team and surround myself by the people who I know together we can do something better than trying to do it just myself. Thank you, Miriam. So, I can honestly say that I learned a lot more through Hillel than a couple hours a week. I spent half a mile down the road. These are, and they're lessons. They're lessons that I'm proud to say as a product of Santa Barbara. I feel like I'm a product of Santa Barbara. Was able to take with me and build into the organization that we've created now. Last year alone in Moishe House, there are 54 Moishe Houses now. It's the largest organization in the world, serving 14 countries, for creating and building young Jewish life after college. In 2012, we had over 3,500 programs with attendance of greater than 65,000. And as Erica was sharing about her birthright trip, it's the largest provider of post-birthright programming for after college. So these are, what we gained here and learned here are things that were not just applied here. They're things that stay with us for the rest of our lives. So finally, I really want to thank everyone here, because from Santa Barbara, I learned what it is to have a community and to be part of a community. Whether it's Thanksgivings at El Capitan, dinner at the Pressers over and over and over, Passover at the Kaufmans, interning at Fionda, or receiving the scholarship that I needed when my dad was sick. Santa Barbara Hillel is a living, breathing community. And it doesn't just provide that, it shows what it is and gives people the opportunity to then, in turn, create that for others for the rest of their lives. Thank you very much.
student speakers. Jake Spire. Jake is a freshman here at UCSB and has had quite a bit of involvement. This last week, I got the opportunity to travel to Washington, D.C. with Jake for the APAC Policy Conference. We went together with a group of 6 students and myself, and it is a pleasure to invite Jake to come on up and share his story.
Good morning. Can you hear me? As I walked outside this morning for delicious breakfast and everything, and meeting all of you wonderful people, I got to sit with 3 or 4 people outside who all said the same thing to me when they heard that I was a freshman. I said, I'm a freshman here studying economics, and they said, congratulations. And I still don't understand why. They then went to say that this is some of the most wonderful times you're ever going to experience in your life, and that being a freshman is like nothing else in the world. And then, in sitting in the back room and hearing David and Rabbi speak, and looking at all of you guys in this room, I kind of realized that I have a unique perspective. Because being a freshman, I basically have a blank canvas. I've only been here for 6 months, which is a very short amount of time, seeing that we also had winter break. But from those 6 months, I can already see that that blank canvas is starting to become something of a masterpiece. To me, I'm kind of your just casual Jew from LA. I'm a Reformed Jew, bar mitzvah, Shabbats on the weekend, etc. Went to Jewish summer camp. And coming to UCSB, I was kind of worried that I was going to lose that love for Judaism that I had found, that unique love. And through growing up, I've kind of found that, whether it's the religious, the cultural aspects, or just the people of Judaism that have come into my life, they've really shaped the person that I am. And I've found that all those things that I love about Judaism here at Hillel in the past 6 months. Religiously, I want to be here for the great food every Friday night. Trust me, I'm not going to miss a free meal, and if it's delicious, I'll absolutely be one of the first in line to eat. But I've also found that the variety of services that we have here, whether it's a drum circle or guitars, or seeing fellow staff members that I go to camp with, leading a service, really draw me in to the Jewish community here. And whether we have tons of people that I know at our dinners, or if it's random people that I've never met before, I can always understand that they're all going to be the exact same people. Jews or otherwise, who are hungry people, willing to make the best of friends here at Hillel on Friday nights. The other kind of events that we have here at Hillel, whether it's Iron Chef hummus making or scavenger hunts, they really draw together the community that I've grown to know and love here at Hillel. I always know that I can come to an event and have that cultural aspect of Judaism that really draws me to the religion. Whether it's music, food, Israeli couscous, which is the rice so nice they named it twice, apparently, as my dad would say. All those elements really draw me to what Hillel is, and keep me focused on that Jewish identity, an element that I know and I want to have for the rest of my life. Finally, the people that I've met at Hillel, whether it's the faculty, the staff, the kids who have now become my best friends, whether it's through the Jewish organization, the Jewish fraternity that I'm a part of, the Jewish political activist group that I'm a part of, everything in my life now has to do with Judaism. And it all comes together with Hillel as a central hub. And I would like to say that I'm so humbled to stand before you and give my deepest congratulations to you, because you are the ones that should be congratulated for making this such a wonderful place for students like myself and everyone else who comes through Hillel, as wonderful as it is. And Mazel Tov. Thank you.
Solo every now and then as well. So, but mostly you can come here on a Friday night during the school year and hear her help lead the service. Following that beautiful musical presentation, it's my pleasure to move on to our next honoree. To introduce Richard Silver, I'd like to invite Marty Levy to come forward at this time as president of San Diego.
Distinguished honorees. Is that better? Better, sorry. Okay, so it is an incredible honor and privilege to introduce Richard Barnett Silver. my bridge partner, my hiking buddy, the person who taught my dog Cosmo that men are really nice people. As many of you know, Richard came to us via Skokie, Illinois, University of Illinois, Harvard Law School, and Los Angeles. You may not know that Richard did not want to move to Santa Barbara. When the company he was working for relocated from Los Angeles, he loved Los Angeles. Though working as a corporate counsel and traveling the world, he was still active in the Jewish community, was a Jewish big brother, served on the board, and loved being part of a big city. But in 1996, Richard finally agreed, and thank goodness, because my life and our community's life would be much poorer without the presence of Richard B. Silver. I'm not going to spend time, Richard told me to keep this short, describing all that Richard has contributed to Santa Barbara Hillel since joining the board in 2000. As donor, as secretary, as treasurer, as the person who established a support foundation for Hillel, as chair of development, as co-chair of the search committee that brought Rabbi Evan to Santa Barbara, and as chair of the nominations and leadership committee. And all that he has contributed to our community in Santa Barbara, such as being the first executive director of Congregation B'nai B'rith, raising funds for camper scholarships to such places as Camp Haverim, as a big brother, as volunteer reader for the blind, and as a volunteer in our local elementary schools. I think you get the idea. Instead, I thought I would share with you the words some of his longtime friends have sent me to describe Richard. A wonderful sense of humor with a great laugh. Creative, adventurous, dashing. Richard has an ability to infinitely keep in touch with friends that he has made over the years. I do not think he has ever lost contact with a friend. Giving, loving, caring, generous, loyal, honest, principled. A true mensch who has a clear idea of right and wrong and lives his life according to his high moral standards. My best friend. Nothing really is too much to ask of him. He is always available and willing to help. And this is just from 4 of his many, many friends. So what Richard and all of us involved love the most about Santa Barbara Hillel is the time we get to spend with the students. Every year, a lucky group of students gets adopted by Richard, who invites them regularly for dinner and offers them his lasting friendship. Our Hillel strives to provide our students with opportunities to learn and practice tzedek, social justice, and tikkun olam, repairing the world. In Richard, they have an incredible role model. To demonstrate, I'd like to ask everyone here who has been the recipient of a kindness, a helping hand from Richard, to please stand. This is how one man repairs the world, one person at a time. So now, everyone, please join me in congratulating Richard Barnett Silver on his induction into the Santa Barbara Hillel Hall of Fame.
Marty called me to ask my middle name. I had no idea it would be mentioned so often. My great-grandfather would be honored. He was Baruch, and when he moved to the U.S., he just took the name Barnett. I guess it was a popular name for people named Baruch to take back then. So, first of all, thank you all for being here today. This is a fantastic event every year. I'm incredibly honored to be part of it and to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And thank you to the committee, and congratulations to Marion and Steve and David. I'm especially honored to be in the same class as they are there today. It's just incredible. They're all really good friends of mine for a long time, and it's wonderful. So many of you have heard me say that I am the happiest man in the world, which I am. And a big reason for that is that I'm living in the most loving and supportive community in the world. I was reluctant to move here. I was very happy in LA, and it's changed my life being here. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. In his poem, The Road Not Taken, Robert Frost wrote, "Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference." As I tell my story of my road to Hillel, you will note its central theme is my connections with people, and how those connections have made all the difference in shaping who I am. Although I grew up in a home with two Jewish parents, the only Judaism to which I was exposed was lighting Hanukkah candles and attending a Passover Seder once a year. Until I started Hebrew school, I'd never even heard the word Shabbat. The first day I went to Hebrew school, they were talking about Shabbat, and I said, "What's that?" And all the other kids fell off their chairs laughing. They thought I was the class clown. When I graduated from law school, as Marty mentioned, I was working really long hours, and I was looking for something meaningful to do with my time. And I found a program called the Leadership Development Group, which is a program offered by the LA Jewish Federation, and that program changed my life. Many of my close friends from that program drove up from LA today to be here. Through that program, I was introduced to Jewish Big Brothers, and I became a volunteer Big Brother for Josh, who is going to be 34 this month, and Theo matched up when he was 8 years old, and Josh is here today with his lovely significant other, Kina. And it's been an amazing relationship for me. I've learned so much from Josh. People always say, "Oh, you're so nice to be a big brother," but honestly, for everybody who knows who volunteers, you always get more back than you ever give in, and it's absolutely true in my part. So when I moved to Santa Barbara, I wanted to get involved in the community here like I had in LA, and I really had a hard time breaking in until Leonard and Rhonda Koss went to a retreat at the Brandeis Guardian Institute and met Melody Mizell, who's also here today, even though she and Steve now live in Sacramento. And they called me up, they said, "We met this really incredible woman from Santa Barbara, here's her number." So I called Melody, and she invited me to a party at her home for the last episode of Seinfeld, so it tells you a long time ago. But through Melody, I was introduced to the Isla Vista Minion. And the first time I came here, actually it wasn't even here at that time, it was in the Universal Religious Center. The very first time I went there, I met Marion and Steve, who just warmly welcomed me, and it's like, wow, these people are really nice. And then, that very same day, Lori and Rabbi Arthur invited me back to their home for lunch, and with some other people, Vicki and Gary Linka were there, and I thought, this is incredible. These people are just so nice. And from that moment on, I was hooked on the Ivy Minion and on Hillel, and on Santa Barbara. So Rabbi Steve and I became really close friends. We would have lunch together every week, and Steve taught me how to read and write Hebrew, which I had never learned in Hebrew school. Mostly because I hardly ever went. So, more importantly, Steve taught me by example, and everybody here will not be surprised, how to be a mensch. He's incredible in every way, and a big part of who I am today is because of Steve as a role model, and it's absolutely true. Also through the Ivy Minion, I was introduced to Hillel, and when I was going to join the board, I had to be interviewed, and the two people who interviewed me were Yves Sen and Marty, and I became really good friends with both of them. And through Hillel and through the Ivy Minion, I also met Renee and Itzik, and so Marty, Renee, and Itzik are three of my closest friends today, and you couldn't ask for better friends. Through Rabbi Steve and the Ivy Minion, I also learned about Judaism, and particularly this concept which everybody keeps talking about today, tikkun olam, healing the world, and that really resonated with me, and also changed who I am. Through my service on the Hillel board, I met Molly and Abe Presser. And Molly and Abe, as David mentioned, invite students back to their home for dinner all the time, and they honored me by including me in those dinners. And through those dinners, I met, in the very first year that I was invited to those dinners, two incredible young men, Jordan Fruckman and David Siegelman. And I got to be very close friends with David and Jordan. And as David mentioned, they both asked me to be ushers at their wedding, which was incredibly touching for me and just amazing. So my friendship with Rabbi Steve eventually led me to become the executive director at CBB. And at CBB, I met even more amazing people. So here at Hillel, I think because I had a very close relationship with my grandfather when I was growing up, I've always been drawn to and especially close with some of the senior members of our community. And here at Hillel, I became close with Milton Reisman, Harold Richards, Judy Mizell, Rhoda and Jesse Coleman, and I've learned so much from all of them. And when I went to CBB, I got to be good friends with Sylvia, Armando, Natalie Meyerson, Lou and Bernice, Sissy, Bobby, Relene, Marlene, all these people who have really had a huge impact on my life and have taught me by example how to be a good person, as they are. And through CBB, I also met Ina and Aaron Ettenberg, and now I have the pleasure of volunteering in Ina's classroom 3 days a week. So it's all these connections that have been formed through the community that really impact my life. Anyway, I also have a time limit. I can go on and on, but the bottom line, as you can see, is it's all about relationships for me. I've been blessed to form fantastic friendships and richly rewarding relationships with warmly wonderful, incredibly interesting, and perfectly personable people who make our planet a better place. Yes, Natalie Meyerson also taught me how to use alliteration. I'm a big believer in and a dedicated devotee of our Santa Barbara Hillel because it's a place that warmly welcomes and nurtures all Jewish students, regardless of their backgrounds, knowledge, or beliefs. Through the leadership of Rabbi Evan and his truly talented staff, our Hillel offers students a place to pray, a place to play, a place to study, a place to learn, a place to forge friendships, and most importantly, a place to begin to find their own road to Judaism and healing the world. David Siegelman is but one example, albeit a stellar example, of how our support of Hillel nurtures future leaders of the Jewish world and creates the opportunity for an infinite number of interpersonal connections whose potential for good is unlimited. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Every person must decide whether he or she will walk in the creative light of altruism or the darkness of destructive selfishness. This is the judgment. Life's persistent and most urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Marty. Richard, you spoke beautifully about the way lives are interconnected and the students who played a role in your life. It is my pleasure to invite Dana Rutherford, one of our students, to come on up. Dana, come on up right now. Dana is going to be graduating this June after a wonderful stay here at UCSB, and Dana has her story to share with us.
So, when I was in high school, a girl once asked me, "What are you?" And I was completely thrown by her question.
Louder. Put the mic closer.
She didn't ask who, she asked what. And for 8 years I pondered this question, and now with a great deal of joy I can tell you, I'm Jewish. That wasn't always the answer I could give though, since I was born Jewish. And growing up, I fell in love with Judaism, with religion, people, culture, and going to a predominantly Jewish high school. Whenever anyone would ask me if I was Jewish, in my heart I always wished I could say yes. And I have to say that my answer, I am Jewish, is like a fabric woven from a multitude of memories and experiences that happened throughout my life, many of which, the most precious ones, happened with everyone before. I wanted to come to Hillel before I even started class. So as a sophomore, I came to Shabbat services, and the girls I met that night are some of my best friends today. And I'm grateful for them all, everyone. For the first time, I felt like I belonged, like people cared. And during the toughest moments when dealing with the immense stress and pain of my parents' divorce, I had a place to call home. So the more I was here, the more I wanted to help, the more I wanted to get involved in any way I could, be it with Shabbat setup or helping in the office. And I felt like I had a place to be. Hillel gave me a sense of purpose and balance, and the staff, and all of the students, everything. So I started speaking with Rabbi Evan about conversion, and began studying with him. And that led to many questions, which my questions led to more questions, and we kept studying together. So at Shabbat dinner one week, Alexia asked me if I ever thought about going on an alternative spring break with Hillel. Not knowing quite what this was, I looked at her a little confused, and she said, it's a week to New Orleans of Jewish learning and work. And so I was like, I would love to go. It would be amazing. But I wasn't sure if I could, because funds were a little bit tight, but we made it happen and fun. And I have to say that was one of the best experiences of my life thus far. I remember going with all the students and listening to the survivors' stories of the hurricane and listening to their strength. And the experience actively shaped my ideas about what a life could be and how much the criminal elements had often meant to me. I remember listening to the stories, and it was interesting, all of the stories. And I remember the smallest things meant the most to me too, and just knowing that I was in the car with all of the other 9 incredible people brought me immense joy. So my junior year, I was given the gift of being involved on the student board, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it, and I was able to give back by building and strongly love. After almost 2 years of learning, it was time to take the next step. And I passed my big thing and went to the mikveh, and in this room, held the Torah and became part of the Jewish people. And this past summer break was by far the most precious experience I've had in my life so far. I was able to go with Hillel on birthright as well. And I loved Israel. I loved the strength of the Jewish community. And I'm grateful to God for being on the trip. And being there brought about a lot of questions, and I wanted to learn more. And I realized after all this time that Israel is where I want to be. So I'm currently in the process of applying to biomedical engineering programs in Tel Aviv. And on a different note, I would just want to say that I want you to know how much you all mean to me. And not a day goes by that I don't thank God for your support of Santa Barbara Hillel. You've touched so many lives and so many people and so many students. And my friends and I feel at home too. And not a day goes by that I don't think about it. And whenever I walk up the stairs and look at the Hillel wall of fame, it made me think how one day I want to be up there too. I want to give back to Santa Barbara Hillel and other organizations that encourage students to make the most of their lives, to grow and to lead. And if I were to describe my perception of Santa Barbara Hillel in one word, it would be love. Your support has helped countless students and helped me learn about who I am, and I appreciate you all for your time.
Dana, thank you as always for sharing so personally. With the deepest pleasure, I invite our board president, Ronnie Ans, to share a few things.
It's a good one to follow, but it's always tough following the students. All of them. Thank you to Evan, the students, our many community volunteers, and our wonderful staff for putting on the most entertaining, inspiring, and downright fun charitable event in Santa Barbara. Jewish life here is a more amazing opportunity than ever. UCSB now has the highest percentage of Jewish students across the entire UC system, and that number is growing here while it is shrinking at other campuses. We have become one of the top birthright Israel recruiters in the nation. We have declared our independence from the old LA-based regional Hillel organization and now directly own this beautiful building and have full control over our destiny. Alas, with opportunities come challenges. We're losing the support of our biggest single funding source, LA Corporation. Over the next 2 years, they'll go from supporting 25% of our budget to not giving us any support at all. As we work to redefine our destiny and serve the students who are the leaders of the future, we need the renewed and continued commitment of the people who built this building and sustained Hillel for many years. It's also imperative that we welcome new supporters and community leaders into the fold. As we plan for the future, we need everybody's support, multi-year pledges, and plan-giving commitments. My wife Nina and I have just committed to a significant multi-year pledge. 100% of our board members give generously, and many of them are now stepping up with multi-year pledges as well. I extend to each of you an invitation to begin, renew, or continue your involvement with Hillel. Come to a Shabbat dinner. That's the best way to meet the students and really see the organization in action. Meet me, meet with Rabbi Evan, get a tour of the building, or offer your energy and resources to help Hillel. This building is an amazing space, but our program is much more than a building. In this changing funding climate, Santa Barbara Hillel needs your help to fill this building with vibrant life. So, in each of your little program guides is an information sheet. If you are interested in participating in any way, says meet with a student, meet with Evan, get involved, please fill out an interest form and give it to any of the staff or to a board member and help you find your place to make our new future together. A future for Hillel and the awesome students we serve, the leaders of the next generation. So thank you, and Mazel Tov for all around our leaders.
Thank you, Ron, for all the leadership you bring. Let's have a big hand for Ron. Who has put tremendous above and beyond work into helping Santa Barbara Hill become independent over this last 2-year period of Ron's being president. Our final honorees for this morning don't need an introduction, but they will get an introduction. A very loving and caring introduction from their dear friends Deborah and Roger Friedland, and I would like to invite the Friedlands to come forward at this time to share their thoughts.
We stand here today in the house that Steve and Mary Cohen built. It is an improbable house, one that exists because of 2 love affairs. The first between a husband and a wife, the second with our town. It exists because the Cohens call this home. When I, as Hillel president, interviewed Steve for the job of rabbi in 1985, he was the same age as the graduate students at UCSB. He was ethical, humble, yet strong, earnest and able to listen to young people. We hired the 27-year-old right out of rabbinical school. I thought he was the kind of person who might be able to take our very small Hillel community and make it into something. And if not, at least those who saw his light might be lucky to have known him. Little did I know that he would replace our dingy little room at the URC with this magnificent structure and a community strong enough to sustain it. Rabbi Cohen grew up in Rochester and came here to an alien land. California was a different planet, a place of Hollywood, wilderness, the beach, and palm trees, none of which had anything to do with him. After his stint in Los Angeles at rabbinical school, he was sure he would never come back. Steve showed up the first day at the URC with a backpack on. The social worker who ran the breakfast program at the URC for homeless people thought he was down on his luck and offered him a free meal. That was his beginning, his first day of work. He knew nobody when he came. The students in Isla Vista were very unfamiliar. People he called the cool surfer dudes really intimidated him. At that point, the Hillel student community was a tiny, tiny place centered around a group of Jewish students who lived at a place called the Bayit on the beach in Isla Vista. It was Aldous Huxley's former home. And once a month they had Shabbat dinners at their house. And Steve Eden, the first year, dressed as a Hasid from outer space and went trick-or-treating with them. That's taking you guys back. That's what it was like. Give me a picture of what it was like.
Steve Cohen came single to Santa Barbara. To our surprise, he found a bride in his very first year. Marion first met the boy she knew as Stevie Cohen when she was 5 years old in London, where Steve's father had a fellowship. Her mother and his father had been childhood friends from Jewish summer camp. 16 years later, Steve and Marion met again in Rochester. She didn't think much of the Harvard student whose parents had actually given him a drum set for his bar mitzvah. That was until he gave her a long ride back to Boston. They hardly saw each other after that. There was an occasional letter, but he never forgot Marion, and Marion never forgot him. And then 8 years later, Rabbi Cohen, at the end of his first year at Santa Barbara Hillel, in the middle of the night, wrote her what she calls that astonishing letter, telling her that he wanted to marry the right person and that she might be the one. Would she go camping with him? She wouldn't. They went to a music festival in Quebec instead. Marion knew it was an extraordinary time because she didn't eat a thing. Marion always eats a lot. 2 days later, to everybody's shock, they announced their intention to wed. For Marion, Rochester was already an adventure. Santa Barbara was, as you put it, unbelievable. Los Pineros Road, which was their route to the URC, was rough and dusty. It seemed to her like a sandy outpost. Marion's Steve joke was like Hulda going to Siberia and Fiddler on the Roof. The Cohens started his rabbinate and their family at the same time. Marion came into the marriage knowing very little about Judaism. She didn't even understand the concept of Hillel. After all, they didn't have fraternities and sororities in the UK. When her husband talked about the Greeks, she thought he was referring to some big ethnic community she had somehow failed to notice. Wanting to learn about Judaism, she attended her husband's classes for young marrieds and learned very quickly. She was a maternal figure at Hillel, particularly for the young women who were trying to find their place. Her main role in those early years was taking care of their young children and bringing them to Shabbat to see their father.
Attendance was dismal. Steve cut back Shabbat services to once a month, introducing a community Shabbat which bumped up the number of worshipers from a dozen up to 40 students. He started a faculty Torah study group which included Walter Cohn, Aaron Gabor, and Raya Feldman, which fed him intellectually. He put himself out on campus at tables in the Sukkah at Holocaust Memorial Day. It was, he says, way beyond my comfort zone. To the consternation of some religiously conservative students, he introduced guitar playing at the service, and he struggled to make Hillel cool, including t-shirt designs, which on the one side proclaimed, on the seventh day he rested, and on the other side pictured a Hasid drinking on the beach with the words, and it was good. In 1988, the year after it started, Steve and I took the Jewish festival to Oak Park. It was a gamble. People came for the Greeks, but would they come for the Jews? Thousands came, as you know. You guys came. And it put Hillel on the map. The Hillel community was growing, and they had to move Shabbat services to the auditorium. And then in 1992, the Cohens rested in England's Lake Country. It was good. But it wasn't good for Santa Barbara. England's country life is beautiful. The hill paths, the clouds, the simplicity, the care with which people tended their gardens and chose their words. Steve Cohen is, you need to understand, a neo-Hasid, somebody who finds the sacred in the ordinary, in the flight of a bird, in a child's query. This place was heavenly. It was perfect every day except for one, Shabbat. They were alone, but they would adapt to that. They would move to England, take over Marion's parents' bed and breakfast, and make it into a retreat center. They would bring the Jews to them. They both thought of Santa Barbara as a way station.
When they came back, a funny thing happened. Steve woke up one morning and realized, as he put it, I actually have a fantastic job. If they were going to stay, they would have to make this their home. Marion threw herself into local politics, helping save Elwood, for example. And Steve asked himself, what can Hillel be if I'm going to be here 10 years? The first thing they did was help found the Isla Vista Minyan. It was through the Minyan that Marion learned to chant Torah and lead services, becoming a model of what you could learn if you wanted to, and a testament to the nurturance and deep spiritual solidarity of an egalitarian community of committed Jews who shared leadership. It was also then that the idea to build their own building came upon them, if reluctantly. When some of the Hillel board members pushed him to option land from the local church, Steve thought they were crazy. It was going to cost $1 million. The most he had ever obtained as a donation was $2,500. When it was done, Rabbi Cohen and many other people had raised $4.2 million. Santa Barbara had grown on him. For one, there is its physical similarity to Israel. The way, as he puts it, the prayers for rain come at the right time. Here he instinctively sought to align his piety and his ritual service with nature, with the feel of the oceans and the hills, and a kind of California Judaism. When the new Hillel was built and Shabbat dinners were full house affairs, the Cohens were in awe. It became a place to be, Steve said. They chose to come to pray. Really? It was stunning. They weren't being goody-goody. They were having a great time. But after 19 years, it was time to move on. Steve Cohen had captured the heart of Jewish Santa Barbara, but it had also captured him. I feel, he told us, that this is my place. It has taken a long time, but this place has fed me and penetrated me. He's even gotten to the point of wishing he could surf. When the job of B'nai B'rith was offered, the Cohens took it. It was, after all, quite simple. It was a way to stay home. And so Steve and Marion, on behalf of all of us, we want you to know that you make this our home, and it is good.
So Deborah and Roger, thank you for that beautiful, beautiful introduction. Weaving together, let's have weaving together the lives, the roles that the two of you have played here. And all of our honorees are very special, but on this, the 10th anniversary, I need to say, Steve, you are special indeed. You, as was just mentioned, you have been instrumental to creating, envisioning, and enabling all of us to have a place to call home, a place that students of all faiths can come to, and some that Judaism penetrates their hearts very deeply. You created the Jewish festival, putting Hillel on the map. You envisioned and inspired the Isla Vista Minyan, the Minyan that still meets here in the sanctuary every single Saturday morning throughout the year. You built this building not as a landmark, but as a place of Jewish life and learning and love. And ultimately, and I know from sharing many thoughts with you, ultimately, the most important thing to you is that You've touched the lives of students over 2 decades. You have helped to create Jewish professionals and committed Jews and people who are committed to Tikkun Olam that have gone and fanned out throughout the country and throughout the world. And many of them, their love is expressed back to you in some of the tributes that we have here. So Steve, on behalf of everyone here and on behalf of especially all of those students from the past who could not be here, I want to thank you.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Deborah. I want to use my 3 minutes to speak to the students about 9 people you will never meet in person because they've all passed away. Bernie Haber, Hillel board member, second in command of the Israeli Air Force during the War of Independence and a top engineer at NASA during the Apollo space program. In 1986, Bernie wrote us a check for $2,500, a mind-boggling sum at the time. Bernie Haber loved Hillel. Joe Marcus, Hillel board member, an American-born Jew who fought for Israel in 1948. Joe was our Jewish community's voice of passionate Zionism with a heart for the plight of the Palestinians. Joe loved Hillel. Stanley Eigner, a blunt, hilarious, loving member of my first Hillel board. At 25 years old, Stanley had been the commander of a ship in the United States Navy. His everyday speech was a constant flow of colorful expressions, often followed by, "if you'll pardon the expression." Harold Richards, Hillel board member, had made a fortune selling tchotchkes. He established a charitable lead trust, which since his death has been paying Hillel $70,000 a year. Harold was a short, harmless-looking man, known to approach young women here at Hillel almost every time he was here to ask them, "Excuse me, are you married?" Raymond King Meyerson, tall, dignified civic leader in Santa Barbara, never seen in public without a bow tie. Raymond was the astute and penetrating treasurer of our Hillel board. He was a man of impeccable integrity, and his seal of approval was priceless. Eli Luria, Santa Barbara philanthropist, real estate developer, artist, philosopher, and descendant of rabbis. Eli was the honorary chairman of the campaign to build this Jewish Student Center. Selma Rubin, a force of nature and conscience of our community who told politicians and rabbis when they were right and when they could do better. Hillel was Selma's Santa Barbara Jewish home. Milton Reisman was here every Shabbat morning, a quiet, gentle, loving man whose regular comment during check-in at the Ivy Minyan was, "I'm Milton. I'm happy to be with you." One day, Milton sat down at his dining room table and wrote a personal check for $800,000, the naming gift on this building. He smiled as he handed it to me and said, "That's the biggest check I've ever written." A sketch of Milton can be seen, I believe it's actually by Harris Meisel, who's here today. A sketch of Milton can be seen on the wall in the lobby. And Eve Rogerson, who died less than a month ago, which makes no sense at all. She should be here right now. Eve was president of the Hillel Community Board, and she led us with intelligence, grace, charisma, and her voice and her eyes. Of course, in this room today are many others, including 2 of the most extraordinary human beings I will ever know, Richard Silver and David Siegelman, and all of the other Hillel Hall of Fame honorees of previous years, who have also loved Hillel and made this place possible. But these are the 9 who I want to feel standing here among us this morning. Bernie, Joe, Stanley, Harold, Raymond, Eli, Selma, Milton, and Eve. These students, each one of them would be enormously proud of you. And now let me turn it over to Marianne, without whom I would be truly alone in this world, and without whom I assure you, none of all of these good things could have happened.
Right now, I'm feeling about this big in the company of these three men. I'm both embarrassed and honored, but truthfully mostly embarrassed to be included with the three of you, and with all the past honorees who've all had such an extraordinary impact on the growth and well-being of Hillel at UCSB. Although I understood the importance of the work that Steve was doing here, I didn't truly get it until our kids went off to college. I was so thrilled that Hillel was there for them. All those years when Steve was the Hillel rabbi, one of my favorite moments each year was the last Friday night of the school year, when he would invite the graduating students to speak about their experience at Hillel. Without fail, I found myself moved to tears by their spontaneous testimonials of personal and Jewish growth, lasting friendships, and a sense of belonging in this little corner of a campus of 20,000 students. And every year since then, at this Hall of Fame event, I've been transfixed by the student speakers, as I was today, so eloquently describing the opportunities that they found at UCSB Hillel for learning, leadership, and connection in a Jewish context. Knowing how hard Steve and David and Richard have worked to transform this Hillel into an exciting, relevant center for Jewish students, it's thrilling to see how Hillel is continuing to thrive under the superb leadership of Rabbi Goodman and his staff and the Hillel Community Board. Thank you, Evan, and the board, for all that you do and for this honor.
For all of our honorees, we thank you. I would like to mention that from the 3rd District, Doreen Farr, and the 2nd District, Janet Wolf, our county supervisors, have prepared some special certificates of honor. We also have from Assemblymember Das Williams and from the President of the Reform Movement, Rabbi Rick Jacobs, a letter of commendation as well to thank and give tributes to our honorees. And as a special treat, we welcome to bring greetings from the civic community, our representative in Congress, Representative Lois Capps. I had the pleasure of visiting Lois at her office on behalf of myself and 6 students who traveled with me to Washington, D.C. for the APAC conference this last week, so this is twice in 1 week. I have to make a little adjustment here.
And I feel very privileged and a little humbled, more than a little humbled, to be able to follow this year's inductees into the Hall of Fame. Now it's 10 years worth, isn't it? And to me, and I know I speak, Helene, our mayor, is sitting next to me, and I know she joins me in saying, Mazel Tov. Mazel Tov. It doesn't get much better than this, does it? Because what I see, and I just covet the privilege of coming to you for the special gifts that I get to take away with me, working in what feels sometimes like a very strange place. But knowing that, like a congregation and like a community, you can forge there in Washington, D.C., what you have built here. And it really is an investment of one generation in the next. And that's why I'm really pleased that now for the first time, David Sigelman, you represent the alumni who have had the privilege of being a part of this place and now have, as you have demonstrated, will go out into the wider community and take a piece of this place with you. And Von Silver has come to bring that wider community here to this place and add the richness that you do and the very personal dimensions that you offer. And our rabbi. I remember my memories of Walter when you were that tiny little place in the URC, and how he was so proud to be able to support, through the Department of Religious Studies, this wonderful presence within the Isla Vista community. And for me now, what this rich and vibrant community of Isla Vista and the UCSB campus can mean in the life of someone who represents a congressional district in Washington, D.C. There really is a place for the spiritual, for the sacred, within what is the most civic and perhaps in some respects crass element of life. To bring the jewels, to burnish the rough stones that become the jewels. And when we have a campus such as this one, and you have a presence here, and this, today, it's never been more beautiful than today, I think, for me. It's such a wonderful day to be able to just capture that spirit and to know that this tikkun olam, a word that you have taught me, in the richness of the meaning of that word, really is at the heart and soul of what we believe about a community which is Isla Vista, and which is the Greater Santa Barbara Support Team community, which is a model for how we want our beautiful America to be as well, the promised land in a different sense. So you honorees, I have certificates. I'll pass mine off, but you've got a stack more up here too, that you're about to receive. And just say again, thank you. Thank you, Hillel. Thank you to former students, to community members, and to today's students who will one day come back in some form or another to add your richness to the life that we share together this day. Congratulations.
Thank you, Lois. And now, to close our program, we are going to invite Judy Perrin, who is a longtime member of our board, as well as our only big cantor. Judy is going to do a little humorous shtick, a little song, and this is on behalf of you and also Cantor Mark Childs, who usually does this but has a family obligation out of town and will be enjoying this from afar, and you're accompanied by William Kleinman. And then after this, we'll invite all of the past honorees to come up as we close our program.
So Cantor Mark Childs wanted me to express his extreme regret that he could not be here with his tall presence to add his bit of levity to the occasion. So but he definitely contributed to what I'm going to do by writing a lot of the lyrics, and you probably can figure out which ones he wrote. The Jews of Santa Barbara come each year to write the names of some fine individuals in Hillel's Hall of Fame. He came for the post of the rabbi of the East. Steve Cohen is Hillel's best friend. And now he's the toast, he's the best. What a guy, he brought us marrying his wife, and she's the best part of his life. When they were here, the students would cheer for Shabbos dinner Cheer again! Alone or together, there ain't no one better. The Coens are Hillel's best friends. He's tall and he's svelte with a mustache so pretty. Richard is Hillel's best friend. He rarely sits down, but he'll sit on your committee either here at IB or around the town of CBB. A learned Jew, big brother through and through, spends his days helping others succeed. When the rest disappear, he's right there to volunteer. Richard is Hillel's best friend. When he came along, this whole place was a party. David is Hillel's best friend. He taught us beer pong, this same man, him and Hardy, and you know it's true. He made it cool to be a Jew. So young Jews would leave that tribe when their college elementary split. But no moss grows on this boy, so he built a house named Moshe. David is Hillel's best friend. Our thanks to the staff who made this lovely morning happen. They are all Hillel's best friends. You cried and you laughed, and all your feet to be tapping to this silly song. I promise it won't go on much longer. The students play and praises rain for the honors we love without end. We're so glad you came. Next year, please do the same, 'cause you are all Hillel's best friends. And we are all Hillel's best friends.
I'm turning to the back page of this book, and I want to thank you all for the contributions you made, the beautiful sentiments expressed in this book, the wonderful pictures of our students that you'll find throughout the book. I'd like to invite, from the back page, all of our past recipients of the Hillel Hall of Fame Award: Shirley and Seymour Lehrer, Marty Levy, Yael Kogan, Juliana Friedman, Rhoda and Jesse Coleman, Natalie Meyerson, Indy Luria, Joan Rothenberg, Sarah Miller-McCune, Eve Presser, Judy Karen, Judy Mizell, Steve Americaner, Dale and Michael Nissenson, Ann and Michael Tobes, Lainey and Peter Melnick, and Bernice and Lou Wider, to all come up, representing the generations of those who have stood up for Hillel, cared so deeply about our mission, helped our students. We're pleased and honored to gather all of you together. Come tight so that Renee can take a picture of all of you. Bernice, you come right out. And I offer these words of celebration. There's and this year's nominees as well: Stephen, Marion, Richard, and David as well. Come on up. Let's get a big hand. Come on up. And in honor of all of you, we close with these words of Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu, v'kiyamanu, v'hiryanu, l'zman hazeh. Mazel tov to our honorees. Thank you for your support. We thank you on behalf of the students and all of us. Have a wonderful day. Take your books with you if you like.